What's up, YouTube? So we're going part 3 today, and we left off sort of a little open-ended because I brought up some stories that were in a different time frame on that last video at the end of it. So we're just going to go ahead and kind of crank back to where I was at, where I was talking about we had been attacked and we started carrying weapons on us, and there were some mindset changes that came with everything I was going through up there in that Washington time frame. Well, I kind of start reaching the end of my time up there in Washington, and through that whole time I had really been poor. Like we weren't going to the food banks hardly ever up there because they really suck. Like the food banks in Washington just did not have good stuff. And they made you jump through quite a large amount of hoops just to get some, probably because of the abuses that those things end up going through. We started to have limited everything, really. Like I was living with my mother, and she was basically bedridden in a lot of ways because she has both fibromyalgia and Crohn's. So long story short, I basically was in a house where we were kind of starving, not like starving, but kind of starving, where we weren't getting enough nutritional value to be building a whole lot of muscle and strengthening ourselves. We were kind of just sitting between neutral and deteriorating. So I reached sort of the end of my time frame up there, and I end up getting one amongst many, but a phone call from my father, and he's with a different woman at that time that I was sort of considering my stepmom, and nowadays I do actually just consider her stepmom, even though they never got married. But she had sort of worked it out with my dad that it was like my brother and I could come down and visit and stay if we wanted, but we could come sort of see them and kind of like reintegrate in a sense, even if it was just for a while, just to kind of hang out. So we get kind of an open-ended bus ticket thing, get shipped down to their house, take a few of the assets and the essentials with us. Obviously, those 2 legendary machetes were going with me. Once I got there, I still had things like my drum set there, so there was these things that were already just kind of attaching me back there. And I went and stayed, and honestly, my stepmom was like, dude, you're starving. You look skinny as hell. You're so small compared to the person that left here. Like, you need to be fed and like live like a normal life. So I spent some time there finally eating food and just like learning that mindset of you can't just starve and exist. So that was already one of those like key foundational moments of, okay, no, this life that I was living, there's just not a whole lot normal about being a person who's sitting there starving away and just withering. And then the next thing that she moved towards was like, you need to have a skill. Like, you got to have money. If you don't have any money, you're like wasting away, and you don't have anything to show for all of this wasting. So how about we get you into a program? What do you think about going back to school? Or maybe do you want to do a trade school? Maybe you want to go to something like that. And I sort of settled on like, well, maybe a trade school might be a really good option because I could go back to welding. And so I decided, all right, let's do this trade school thing. We started looking around. We settled on like, let's take a look at this Job Corps. Job Corps sounds cool. There's a lot of programs to it, and it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity. Ended up going to the Job Corps, liked the idea, signed up, got all the paperwork put in, accepted, good to go. So I head into Job Corps, and at Job Corps it was wonderful. Things have changed since then, but when the Job Corps was what it was back then, I was able to not only build a lot of key assets to my life that changed who I was as a person, like maintaining my own little bed and my little locker quarters and everything around a number of other guys that are my age, my mindset. But I was being taught life skills on top of that too, like just exceptional cleaning rather than just like bare minimum cleaning. Going through and like wiping the dust out of the corners, moving stuff around to get to the other dust that's hidden. It really changed like not doing the bare minimum type of mindset. And the whole system that's set up there, or was set up there, was to prepare yourself for just the real world and working with a job and a career and a boss. And so I flourished. Excuse me. I also did the education program where they provide you the opportunity to get your GED or your high school equivalency. And I nailed the GED. Got in trouble for kind of dicking around in the education program and got pulled out, so I didn't get to finish my equivalency because, well, I'm kind of stupid sometimes. But I did get the GED side of it done. That part was good to go. The next part was accomplishing the program in the welding category, but they opened up another opportunity for me as I was getting late into the program that completely switched the type of person that I am. It actually switched me on to being in the backwoods and being like survival minded and being prepared for worst case scenarios and everything. And that was becoming a wildland firefighter. And when I did firefighting in the backwood wildlands, I was introduced to having basically a bug out bag in a sense, but it wasn't obviously just like this general purpose, I need to escape New York City type of thing. What it really was a dedicated bag, and that bag kept operational capabilities on us. We had the fire deployable shelters. We had food like granola bars and things on stock and on hand. We carried 4 jugs of water on each side of the backpack. So it started to shift my mindset of like, what would you carry in a backpack if you had to get out of Dodge? And that really, really, really helped, because at the center, after I had gone on my first roll and I had, I don't know, it's somewhere in the ballpark of like $8,000 or $9,000 just kind of hanging out in the bank, I started to realize that I really like this idea of like being in the woods, doing the woodsman thing. And so I went to Big 5 and I purchased myself a really nice backpack at the time. There's much better backpacks nowadays, but at the time it was a really, really nice bag and kind of on the higher end side for that time. I think they wanted $300 for it, but it was on sale for, I don't know, 100, 150, somewhere in there, ballparking it. They're much cheaper nowadays just because the materials have changed and they're not considerably one of those better quality bags. They're kind of a bare minimum bag now. So I got that backpack and it was like, I carried that thing everywhere with all my stuff. I just got in that habit of like, this is my backpack. And I had that sucker just crammed to the top anytime I was going somewhere. I would just load it with like all of the stuff that I wanted. Because in high school, I was kind of one of those guys that just always kept my stuff with me. I was a pothead, That's something I could have included before, actually, is that when I was a pothead, I always had like a ready kit where it had my smoking accessories, it had my marijuana, my Mary Jane, and lighters, cologne, eye drops, the whole thing. Like I was always really a prepper for a long time, way before I understood what people call preppers and whatnot. Uh, with that same mindset of like carrying everything that I might need, like a phone charger in my backpack. I keep like a phone charger on me, water bottles, just stuff that I really thought I might need or might want. I usually would keep a change of clothes with me after a couple of times of going over to somebody's house, like spontaneous, hey dad, I'm going to spend the night at somebody's house kind of thing. Usually my cousins. But I started to realize it was like, man, I need to keep like everything I would need on me so that if I wanted to go just stay the night and be a hellion all night, I want to have everything I need on me so I don't have to stop by the house stoned off my gourd and try and talk to my really strict father. But that translated into the same thing with that backpack and just carrying all my gear on me. And from there, I got out of Job Corps, got a job, and I was welding and doing my thing. Well, I lost my girlfriend before I moved out of Job Corps, and I was puppy love smitten with her, so I was heartbroken because I was young and I thought she was the one because I'm stupid. Got out of Job Corps, started the job that I thought was going to be a career time job because it was a good job, good career job. But my mindset was really stupid and I was still smoking weed all the time. Ended up losing that job because obviously, you know. So then I'm like a little bit more heartbroken and a little bit more crushed and just wah wah, what was me, boo hoo, bitching. Then because I lost that job, I had spent my $16,000 or so that I had from firefighting money on just really dumb shit and paying all my rent. I was broke and I just didn't have any more funding. So I lost the place I was staying at because they were sick of it. They were like, look, we don't want to just drag this out where you're paying off your rent piece by piece, trying to do little jobs and only getting enough money to pay part of your rent. And so they like quasi evicted me. They gave me a piece of paper that they were like, you're evicted. And it was, here's the rules you broken. It wasn't like a legitimate eviction. It was just my roommates telling me like, hey man, you kind of suck and we're done dealing with you. Get the hell out. And fair enough. So I lose that place and all I've got is like my car and my stuff. So I've got my dog at this time too, which, you know, God rest her soul. She's gone past nowadays, but because this was a good 12, 13 years ago. No, actually, that would have been about 11 years ago. And it was just, you know, I was mopey and sad and wah. Because now in my mindset, I've lost everything. And my pride's been just absolutely scorched because I was a bit of a very proud and overconfident guy before that. So I've just, my personality has just been slapped around and I've had to learn that I'm not the guy because I've lost everything being an idiot. And I end up spending 6 months or so living in a car, just like bitchy, whiny, depressed. And that transition from there, there's a lot of backstory that goes on that. But needless to say, I was going to food banks and acquiring food that way, and that's how I was feeding myself. Excuse me. I was living off of canned food and box food and trying to eat all of the food that goes bad, like rapid fire. The second I'd get it from the food bank, I'd just scarf down on everything that would go bad within a day. I'd chug like half a gallon of milk or 3/4 of a gallon of milk if I was able to get a gallon of milk. Because I was lying. I was telling them, I'm picking up for like a family of 3 and just, being a depressive person who's got terrible morals. During that time, in the winter part of it, I was just absolutely freezing and depressed and super suicidal. But what helped me carry through actually was partially my dog. My mindset of, I don't want anyone else raising my dog because I absolutely love her to death. It kept me stronger than I could have been without her. I truly do to this day think if I didn't have my dog at that time, my mindset was so poor and I had so little of help from anyone, like genuine help, that I really just wanted to start a shotgun, to be perfectly honest. But that dog kept me tied in. It was like, man, I don't want someone else to raise her because this is my dog and I enjoy everything about her. So she kept me locked in. And I had a really good amount of dog food. So it's kind of funny. It's like, even though I was living real poor, she was kind of like going through probably the best and worst part of her time because we were spending so much time together. So that part was awesome. She was getting tons and tons of walking and playtime. And she had a big giant bag of dog food. Giant. At this time, she's just a puppy, so she's not eating a lot of food. She's only a little bit over a year and a half, maybe 2 years old. So she's just like super energetic blue heeler mix. And I end up getting a message from a buddy because I'm reaching out on Facebook and stuff, asking people like, hey, does someone got a shower I can use? And can I stay the night at someone's house? Things like that. Got my dog with me, whatnot. And I end up floating around a little bit. I stay at a couple people's houses that lend the hand for a minute. And I don't stay long. I always show up, spend a night, 2, maybe a weekend. Then I kind of I've overstayed my welcome. I head out, take a fresh shower, go grab some nice clean clothes from my car, take them over to the place, shower, clean up, and get fresh, and then back to living in the car. And I'm actually living in my car. It wanders around for a minute, but I get to outside my grandma's house, and I'm actually using the side of her house to charge my phone. Well, I end up getting in contact with a buddy, get in with a group of college-aged guys and start playing video games and drinking beer all the time and actually get in a house. But then I start realizing that this place is not going to end up working out. And one of the landmark things that kind of killed it for everybody, where we end up actually all losing the place, is I end up making some money by going and working with my dad to help make the rent. Because we're all struggling, okay, rent needs to get paid because we're going to lose this place and all we've got is power, and we're to the point where we can't even afford to turn on the base heaters because the cost of the power is too much. So I go out with my dad, make some money, get that money put together. And one of the guys that's living with is Jim. I end up giving the money to Jim because I'm thinking okay, we're all just kind of bros and a quasi goof family type thing. And I give the money to him. Well, his ass ends up going down and spending the money. And I was totally unaware of it at the time. It didn't catch on until later, after basically we were all broken up and we're at the end of the there's no recovering this situation. And everybody's talking and I tell them, I'm well, what happened to the money that I gave to Jim? And they're we didn't get no money from Jim. So it was I was playing back through my head, realizing that when I had given the money to Jim, all of a sudden Jim had started like buying beer and things and cigarettes and showing up with all kinds of stuff that he didn't have before. And it's like, oh, that mother F. And at that time, I was way more of a pacifist then than I am now. Now I would have just tuned him up. I absolutely would have took the money back out of his ass cheeks. But at that time, I wasn't that type of person. I hadn't learned the type of things that I learned now and the type of person that I am today. And I really just let him get away with that. So, unfortunately, that led to all of us losing the place. And so I go from staying with them guys to now I'm back to car living again. Well, Grandma, she's still got her place, obviously. And I go back to her place where my car's parked at and go back to living in my car with my dog. And I end up spending a little bit of time with a buddy, one of the same buddies, like good long lifetime friend. We end up spending some time at his mom's house, just kind of hanging out, because he's still like inviting me to go places and do stuff. And me and his younger brother end up kicking it and hanging out, because him and I were closer than the older brother and I were. So I know there's a lot of like story and complication there, but needless to say, another one of his brothers I end up starting to spend more time with. And I'm at the shop, so once again I'm stopping at like a really bad time. But thanks again for if you've been watching through the series, I appreciate you checking out the videos. It's a slog, I'm sure, but for those of you that you're looking for like some extra content just to fill your time, maybe you're a busybody at work and you just need something to listen to as you're doing things. If you're listening along, I appreciate all that stuff. And once again, if you're into this content, you like prepping materials and stuff, give a subscribe, because I'm always going to be just throwing content into the ether. I'm starting to free up more time so I can try and make dedicated videos instead of these more like rapid fire impromptu videos. That way you guys can get better quality content. I want to be that type of guy that's making quality content, not just content for content's sake. These storylines are good because I think it helps you guys know me better. But anyway, like, subscribe, share, do all those things that would help the channel if you want to give me help. If not, just thank you for watching in general, and have a nice day.